Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today I'm bringing you a review for the new Transformers Cyberverse Seekers Sinister Strikeforce box set. It's a Target exclusive. It's part of their Cybertronian villain subline. And it's also part of the Cybertronian mode subline that isn't really exclusive to any one retail or anything. Just denotes any Cyberverse character in their non-Earth mode. And this 4-pack consists of, from left to right, you have Thrust, Skywarp, Thundercracker, and Starscream. These are all read echoes of the Cybertronian mode Warrior class Starscream toy that came out a little bit ago. And it does make the set a little bit redundant since we already have a Starscream. But, as you can see, this one is transparent. So it's a de facto ghost Starscream, really, which is a nice little callback. Not something you see over here in the States very often, if at all. I think the only Ghost Starscreams I can recall were all Takara exclusives. You know, whether it was like the G1 or the old Masterpiece one. So it's kind of cool. It's my first ever Ghost Starscream, and probably it would be for a lot of other people. Thrust is done in a pretty interesting color scheme, much louder and brighter than, you know, what you expect from the show. And Skywarp is also semi-transparent, and I'm guessing that's an allusion to his teleportation powers. And then, of course, Thundercracker is done up in more of his classic colors, the mostly blue with some red detailing. So we flip this box around here, and we got renders on the back. And now the renders, as is often the case, don't exactly match how the final product looks. Starscream's pretty close to what you eventually get, and Skywarp are. Thrust and Thundercracker, they're the only ones done up in solid, non-translucent colors. But in their renders, they kind of have this, almost like a glittery gradient thing going on with their colors that's absent on the final toys. That and Thrust uses a much darker shade of gray in the renders than the final product does, which I think is a shame because I think this really dark color looks awesome. Doesn't really look like Thrust, makes him look like some sort of fire-based Seeker, but still pretty cool. Naturally, being read echoes of the Warrior Starscream mold, they have the same little gimmick or little feature where you flip out their null rays, which are attached to their wings instead of their arms, unfortunately. And it's just called the Nova Seeker Missile. So I'm guessing it's some sort of like upgraded Seeker missile attack or something. So yeah, that's what we're going to be working with today. Now, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We've already looked at the packaging. Next, I'm going to open this up, take a look at the instructions, and then we'll see our 4 Seekers themselves in both their vehicle and robot modes. I'll be doing a comparison with the regular version of Starscream today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So I wanted to take a second to appreciate this backdrop that comes inside of the packaging. You can just slide out a little insert, and I don't know if it's just meant to be part of the packaging or if it is supposed to be some sort of a display piece that you can, kind of put your figures in front of. It doesn't hold together as well as, say, the Studio Series backdrops. There's nothing really keeping it from flopping around, but, if you want to get creative, you could always use this to display your figures. It's pretty nice. Just seems like a scene of a city life out there on Seibertron, and I don't know what all this is peppered all over, if it's just debris or something, or what, but... Now here's the instruction book, and you can see that it just names this as Seekers, which is it's direct and to the point, right? That's what they are. This shows off how their little Seeker missile attack works, and then the quick little transformation from robot to vehicle mode. One thing worth pointing out is, unlike the other Cybertronian villain sets from Cyberverse, and especially the Repugnus one that I had just reviewed prior to this, this doesn't come in the gray and gold coloring that the other instructions do from that subline. So probably an unintentional mistake, but interesting to point out. Okay, here are 4 Seekers in their vehicle mode. And again, from left to right, you have Thrust, Skywarp, Thundercracker, and Starscream. Now, 2 things I noticed that are kind of worth pointing out. All of these guys use a translucent orange for the cockpit and the missiles, except for Skywarp, who actually uses this really cool lime green color, which is nice because it helps his cockpit and his missiles kind of stand out from the rest of them. And the other thing worth noticing is that Starscream, for some reason, has these like red to blue or purple gradient wings, which it's not normal for the character. So kind of a different take on his color palette there. Another thing that I noticed and I really like is that the four of these guys, they're not just straight palette swaps of each other. They use different paint masks. And that's probably most noticeable on their wings and feet. So you can see some of them, like Thrust and Thundercracker, have these stripes on their wings. Thundercracker, you know, he's got his feet are painted. Thrusts are partially painted, and also the little like tail wing things on his legs are painted. So they mix things up a bit. And they also fortunately use a different color layout in their plastics. Again, that's not a one-for-one swap. So again, for such a simple little set, there's a lot of variety to be seen here, which is awesome, right? You want to feel like you're getting your money's worth. The vehicle modes themselves are pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You have this very alien design where the wings sweep way forward ahead of the cockpit there. You can see the missiles underneath. The underside here is unfortunately very robot kibble heavy. It's basically just the robot with his legs folded back and his head backwards. But, you know, it's fine. There's no landing gear to speak of. You basically just have the figure rest on this, like the robot pelvis and these little heel spurs. It does a pretty decent job. A little wobbly, but when left to its own devices, it stays in place. So, yeah, the vehicle modes are, I'd say they're adequate. You know, they work well for what is a Cyberverse toy. For a quick comparison, here is our ghostly Starscream with his more standard counterpart. And you can see they're very different looking. You know, like I mentioned, the wing coloration already is quite different. The regular Starscream just has his normal gray wings with some red detailing. The blue coloration on the feet and shins are absent on this version. And, you know, you wouldn't be faulted for just taking a look at that toy and assuming it's a different character. It looks like it could be like a new original Seeker. Or, you know, even maybe a Ramjet. Maybe they should have called this guy Ramjet instead, but either way, they are two very different takes on your standard Starscream colors. Put it underneath. See again, all the blue is gone, and there's just a lot more red. So it is an interesting conversion they've done here. I'd love to know what the thought process was behind some of the color changes. Okay, now it's time to do the transformation. I did already show this on the other Starscream review, but it's simple enough, I don't mind showing it again. So first thing I want to do, take these wingtips, fold them back, and they have little tabs that kind of plug into the larger section of the wings, like so. You want to take the nose cone, lift it up about that far, where this nub is still showing here. Then you're gonna push the feet up off of his back, because they do tab into the back. Bring him down, like so. And turn his head around. Yeah, angry little face. Untab his arms from the underside of the wings. You can pose them a little if you want to. And that's it. And look at this. That is cool. This is a very clear Starscream. It's not often you see like this just straight clear plastic, at least not on the main body of a figure, so very, very interesting. Well, he looks menacing, doesn't he? This version kind of looks cooler, doesn't it? As far as your Seeker missile attack thing, all you do is you take the cockpit and just push it in more, causes these to flip out. Now, again, it is weird because the missiles are attached to the undersides of their wings instead of their arms, which is a little inaccurate, but I guess it does work better for the gimmick. And honestly, not a huge deal, right? They're kind of nice and out of the way when they need to be, and you don't mind it. You gotta kind of reset this afterwards. Get it back to like this position. Otherwise, these will be prone to just keep popping up. So yeah, Starscream's looking pretty cool. Okay, again, here is a look at the standard Starscream next to our new version. And yeah, I mean, they really just look like different characters, don't they? I gotta say though, I am digging the new color scheme here. It actually kind of reminds me of Armada Starscream in a way. I wonder if that's what they were going for, as like sort of an homage with a mostly red and white thing. Maybe. I could see it. Something I remembered about the regular Starscream when transforming just now, he has those really weak knees that makes him flop backwards, and I'm pretty sure I pointed that out in his review. This guy doesn't seem to have that issue. His knees are a bit more solid. You can push him back, but I mean, even then they stay. So I think that's the case for all the other Seekers, and we'll see once I put them up on screen right about now. So here they are, our 4 guys in their robot modes. And again, I love the variety in their color layout. It's not just a 1-for-1 swap. And, you know, in pretty much every case, it's a very new take on their color patterns while still, you know, maintaining a hint of what their iconic colors are. Thrust, like I said in the beginning, is much more of a fiery color than his usual dark burgundy. And, you know, he uses much lighter gray, which honestly I would prefer if this plastic was more like this dark gray color that they use for all their fists. I think that would have looked cooler, but it's fine. Little garish. Skywarp is almost entirely translucent, the only exceptions being his face and his fists. Everything else is done up in the translucent plastic. And to be fair, Starscream is also all translucent plastic, he's just got more paint on him, specifically on his head, his torso. And Thundercracker really harkens back to his classic colors, but he uses much more blue than the standard Thundercracker layout. And that is something I noticed across the board with the Cyberverse Seekers, is they're a little more monotone, which might make them seem a little plain, but it does help distinguish them from the more standard interpretations of the characters. It does help Cyberverse feel like its own continuity and not just a G1 ripoff, basically. Which is, you know, something kind of welcome, right? We used to have a lot more variety in how these characters look when you harken back to, you know, the Unicron trilogy, Robots in Disguise, the Line continuity, right? Very different takes. You know, the whole Neo G1 thing is cool for what it is. It's really great getting updates to the 80s figures. But, you know, it's nice to see that there's something else out there besides that. So anyway, I mentioned their knee tolerance, and sure enough, I mean, they're all much more solid than the standard Starscream. They don't flop back when I apply weight, which is awesome. So that's either a problem they fixed after the first use of the mold, or I just got a bad copy with loose knees. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, I really dig this set. The Seibertronian Starscream is one of the best warrior class toys in Cyberverse, so it's a great template to throw out some more Seekers. It's a heck of a lot better than the original warrior class. That has got to be one of my least favorite Transformers of all time. Now this set is currently retailing for $50 at Target, which is roughly $10 cheaper than if you were going to buy 4 warrior class toys together, because they're about $15 a piece. So it's not a bad deal. And again, you're getting some really neat takes on one of the best warrior class molds that are out there. So I would say if you're willing to buy Cyberverse at all, this is one of the better purchases you're going to make. It's a really good way to load up on Seekers. Most of the Seekers from the show never actually got a toy released. Starscream's had quite a few by now. Thundercracker did get one warrior class toy, but it was very scarce in the US. And again, it was that really awful warrior class toy, so, you know, I'd rather have this version of him any day, even if it's not really canon to the show, right? But I guess it's supposed to be like an approximation of their pre-Earth forms, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I think this is one of the best things to come out of Cyberverse. But, of course, that is just how I feel. What I really want to know now is what you all think of this set. Is this something you can see yourself picking up? Do you think $50 is a fair price, or are you going to hold out and see if it goes on clearance, as these Target exclusives are wont to do? Might be wise to do so, though this set may be popular enough that it'll actually sell out. Any and all feedback, as always, is welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like, let YouTube know that you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the new Seekers Sinister Strikeforce from Cyberverse. Say that 4 times fast, huh? And with all that said, I will see you next time.